Hello, everyone, and welcome to FlowFest V1. This is the very first FlowFest event that we're putting on, and we've had a huge reaction to it, so thank you very much. So just to give you an idea of what FlowFest is, so FlowFest is a flow competition designed to challenge, educate, and inspire the Salesforce community. So we have a bunch of competitors who are competing to be the Flow champion today, but also a lot of people are watching today as well. And we hope to give you guys a really good show, and we hope that you'll walk away having learned something. So just to give you an idea of the scale of FlowFest, we've had 632 people registered to compete. We predicted kind of somewhere in the 10s, 50 or something like that. So it was amazing to get this many people who are keen to compete about Flow. And then we've also got 100 competitors, and those 100 competitors are from 62 countries, so a truly global event. And we've also had 2,600 people RSVP'd on LinkedIn. So thank you very much for everyone for being here today. So just to give you a breakdown of how it's going to work. So I'm going to try and get through this first kind of section quite quickly and go over the competition because the competition hasn't actually started yet. So in about 2 or 3 minutes time, we're going to kick off and we are going to send the challenges which haven't been seen before to all our competitors, and then it's going to start. Then I'm going to introduce you to our judges who are pivotal in this event. So I'll give you an overview of those. And also we have Adam White with us today, who is a Flow product manager from Salesforce. So great to have him, and we'll have a little chat with him. Then we'll kind of dip in and say hello to our judges. They're very well known in the Flow community, so they're going to share some great knowledge with us. We'll go into a Flow review with Melody. So she's going to show us how to build one of the flows that the competitors are building today. Which is going to be good to see, especially if you're kind of quite new to Flow. And then we're going to have the award ceremony at the top of the hour. And then we've also got an after show where we're going to dive into some of the judges, along with Eric, is going to dive into some of the challenges and show you how they were built, along with some best practices. So a lot to learn. So just to give you an idea about how the competition is going to actually work. So we have 100 competitors, and in a second, literally 1 or 2 slides, the 5 Flow challenges are going to be sent out to everyone. So these Flow challenges are going to start quite easy and then get increasingly more complex. Over the next hour, the competitors are going to be creating these flows, and our judges, who I'll introduce you to in a second, are going to be validating them, making sure they're working and making sure that they're using best practices. And then we're going to have a winner crowned in an hour's time. Then we'll go into the after show for 30 minutes where we'll get our judges to kind of give their opinions on best practices about flows and things like that. The first prize is going to get 2 certification vouchers and also the coveted title of Flow Champion, the first Flow Champion we're going to have. And also, thank you very much to Trailhead. So after we created this event, the Trailhead team reached out and said they would love to sponsor it. So as well as first place getting 2 certification vouchers, everyone who's in the top 10 will also receive a certification voucher. So a lot to play for. And thank you again for Trailhead to reaching out and offering us this. So in 10 seconds, we are going to get going. Eric, on your mark, get set, go. So all our competitors will have received the link now, and they are off. So I haven't introduced myself yet. So to give you an introduction, my name is Ben McCarthy. I'm founder of SalesforceBen.com, a Salesforce MVP, and I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for coming up to 10 years now. And I'm joined by Eric. If you'd like to say hi.
Hello. How's everyone doing? I am managing the chats. I'm managing everything as we go. We'll be here in the background, but super excited to be here. Like Ben mentioned, it's crazy awesome that that we got this much traction for an event like this. It'll be the first one, so we may have a couple of bumps on the road, but we're excited to get this going.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. Eric has put a huge amount of effort into the kind of technical side of FlowFest. So thank you very much, Eric, for all your help. We will see you in a bit. All right. So, and hello, everyone. Could be a bit more relaxed now. The competition started. So hello, everyone. Looks like Looks like we've got a very global audience: Brazil, US, Georgia. Hello to everyone. Plymouth, UK, big up. So just to introduce you to some of our judges. So you might recognize some of these faces because they're very, very big in the Flow community. So first up, we've got Melody, who's got only three years experience in Salesforce, but 10 certifications and is certified application architect. Also the founder of Salesforce Flowsome, which is a great blog dedicated to Flow, so go check it out. We've got Pete, who's got 7 years Salesforce experience, Salesforce MVP, and is self-taught and used to be a chef. And we're going to hear a bit about his story later. We've got Daryl, who is all the way from Australia, 7 years experience, 5 Salesforce certifications, and also the founder of Certify CRM, which is another great blog/training website, which has got loads of courses that you can take, one that's specifically for Flow, and a bunch of other ones to pass other exams. We've got Warren, who's got 6 years Salesforce experience. You might recognize his face from YouTube. He's got a great YouTube channel. Andy, who is the founder of SalesforceBreak.com, another blog, I think mostly dedicated to Flow on there. And he's also got a great Flow course on Udemy. So if you're looking to learn Flow, go check that out. And also Rakesh Gupta, who's Salesforce MVP, too many Salesforce certifications to count, and also the founder of Automation Champion, which has always been focused around building automations with Process Builder, Flow, and things like that. So thank you very much to our judges. They've done a lot to contribute to FlowFest and kind of shaping it. So thank you very much to them, and thank you for their work over the next hour in validating all the challenges. So we'd love it if you can join in. So you've obviously got the chat where you can chat with our judges, chat with other viewers. We did a webinar the other day where it was about Flow, and lots of people were asking questions and things like that. So I'm sure we've got a lot of Flow experts in the audience. So feel free to ask questions and engage with everyone else. We have some quizzes as we go along. Salesforce quizzes with prizes. So Andy and Daryl have kindly donated 5 of their courses each. So watch out for those quizzes, and we're going to be picking some winners. And yeah, you'll be sent those courses. And then we've also got the after show, as I mentioned. So stick around for that because we're going to be talking through some of the challenges, best practices, and things like that. Also, you can join in the competition as well. I'm going to post the link in the chat now. So I hope that's the right chat, the right link. So yeah, so that is the challenge sheet, which has just been sent around to all of our participants. So if you're not signed up to be a few questions coming through. So if you haven't registered or been picked to be a competitor, unfortunately you can't actually take part in the competition because there were things you had to store in your Salesforce org to take part, and information that we've had to brief the competitors on. But you can give the competition a go if you want. But you unfortunately won't be able to win or be kind of officially in it, but feel free to take part. So next up, I'm going to bring Adam White to the stage, who is a Flow product manager at Salesforce. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Hey. Yeah, very well. How are you doing?
Good. It's an honor to be here.
Good. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining in. It would be great to get an introduction from yourself, a bit about your background and how you ended up at Salesforce.
Yeah, sure. So I've been with the ecosystem for, close to 5 years now. Started doing Flow work back in the Cloud Flow Designer days and the dark ages when Flow was on Flash, for those of you that remember. And I'm a 10x certified application architect. I was a solo admin when I first started doing Salesforce work. Moved on to the consulting world here in Richmond, Virginia, with a company called CapTech Consulting. Then eventually moved over and got beamed up to the mothership as a solution architect on the professional services side of Salesforce. And then I guess back in late last year, I joined the product team. I got a lot of attention with a lot of the community work that I do. I'm also involved with, for those of you that are familiar with Unofficial SF, doing some components and actions on Unofficial SF. And now I'm doing, I'm now one of the PMs for Screenflows. So creating the vision and roadmap for our Screenflow runtime.
Great, very cool. Must be a very exciting time with everything moving to Flow at the moment.
Oh yeah.
So I know that you know, something that you've blogged about quite a lot on the Salesforce site is best practices with Flow, and it would be great to, if you could maybe give us your top 3 best practices that everyone should, you know, take away from this session today.
Yeah, sure. So I actually came up with one for each of the different skill levels that I like to classify people as. So one for beginners, one for intermediate, and then one for some of the more advanced folks. For beginners, and this is actually true for really anything that you do in the platform, but it's especially true for Flow, that is document everything. So for you programmers out there, it's a cardinal sin to not comment your code. Think of flows as something very similar. I think of it as a cardinal sin to not document anything. So putting descriptions into your flows, putting descriptions into your flow elements. Context is pretty key, especially for architects and admins that are picking up your flow after the fact. And even for yourself, like a year later, 2 years later, if you're coming back around to a flow, you're wondering like, why did I build this? Or why did I do this really dumb thing in the flow? Maybe it's because Flow couldn't do something at the time, or you just didn't know how to do it. It'll make you look a lot better for folks picking up flows when you actually document stuff. So that would be my first and foremost tip. So that's a stacking tip. So also true for intermediate and advanced users too. The next one I would say is recognize, and this is going to sound bad coming from a Flow product manager, but as a former architect, it's my responsibility to say this: recognize when Flow isn't the best fit. We have a great article called The Record Triggered Guide to Automation that outlines use cases where Flow really isn't the best fit quite yet. So if you're doing things with large data volumes, or you're doing some complex processing with collections of records, maybe it's time to help get some help from Apex with some invocables. Or if you're on an object like an account object or a case object, for mature orgs, you're usually going to find some Apex on those objects. So maybe it's best to have some of that be in Apex when Flow might collide with the Apex. So really recognize when Flow is a good fit and when it's not a good fit. You know, every release we're closing those gaps with Apex. So that question and that answer changes every release. So that's why it's so important to stay on top of release notes. And then for advanced folks, this is also outlined in my best practices article. So if you haven't read it already, I would definitely check it out. It's got kind of a checklist at the end there, but just Google. You can either go to the admin relations website or just Google, I think, Adam White best practices, Flow best practices. It should be near the top. The last tip I have is hard coding values and logic is not good. So take, for example, a situation where you've got 20 decision elements. That might be a situation where you should be taking that logic out of the flow and putting it somewhere in a record or custom metadata. So if you can think of a situation where you've got a case creation process, and based off of the record type, it gets assigned to a certain queue. Well, the not ideal way to do that would be to have 20 decision elements, each based off the different record type. When in reality, a better fit and a more scalable fit might be to actually store those mappings in a custom metadata object or a records where you've got the queue name and the record type name all stored together, so that if you ever needed to adjust it in the future, all you would have to do is add a custom metadata record instead of going through the deployment process of your flow, editing it, going through that painstaking process. So think about how you can take out logic and hard-coded values in your flows.
Nice. Thank you very much, Adam, for that. And it's a shame we don't have a safe harbor up for my next question, but is there anything you can share with us that's exciting that's coming for being released with Flow in the future?
Sure. So some of these things I'm about to talk about, obviously safe harbor, but some of them have also kind of been scattered in the automation trailblazer community. So if you guys have been watching it, sometimes you'll see product managers post on there and ask questions about some of the future thinking things that we're planning for. So the first one and most exciting one, I think, coming in the near term is declarative testing. So we hear all the time from our biggest customers that they wish they had a way to create tests for their flows. Flows are pretty complex, or can get pretty complex, and they can do a whole lot of the things that Apex can do. So why can't we test them? Well, That's coming soon. So be on the lookout for declarative testing. So you could do it in Apex in theory, but now we're going to be bringing declarative testing to admins everywhere. Some of the other cool stuff, definitely, I felt this pain back when I was building flows, but formulas in entry criteria, it's something that you could do in Process Builder that we'll be bringing over to Flow in the near term. So being able to specify a formula as an entry criteria into a record trigger flow is coming. And then more broadly, we will be bringing a better formula building experience within Flow. It was great in Process Builder. You could get it validated and things like that. So that's all coming to Flow as well. And then for Screenflows, one thing that we've heard in the past is headers for sections. So if you haven't checked out sections and Screenflows, it's a great way to segment your Screenflows and have columns that are both responsive and flexible. You can add up to, I think it's up to 6 columns in your sections. So we'll be adding the ability to have headers that can be collapsible. If for you devs, it's most similar to the accordion component. So that's going to be coming soon as well. And then from an auto layout perspective, one thing that we introduced recently was go-to connectors. The one challenge with those is it kind of cuts off what screen those connectors are going to. So we're going to be eventually bringing over the ability to have clickable go-to connectors, so you'll be able to see where those things are connecting to.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alan. And I can see the chat getting very excited by a lot of the stuff that you've just mentioned. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Sure, thanks. Excited.
Cheers, Adam. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. And just for everyone that's asking, people might have joined late, but unfortunately, anyone that registered as a participant and who didn't get an email, unfortunately, we couldn't. There were 600 people who wanted to be participants, and unfortunately, the flows have to be manually checked, so we could only have 100 this time. But there will be another FlowFest, so hopefully you'll be in next time. So we've got our first quiz. So how this is going to work is we've got a few quizzes throughout, and the prizes for these are going to be some of the Flow courses that that Andy and Daryl have donated. So I will just pick the first person that answers it correctly, and then you can reach out to me at ben@salesforceben.com, or actually just comment and I'll follow up with you. Yeah, you will win one of the prizes. So first up. Out of all the Salesforce mascots, or sorry, characters, what is the GOAT mascot called? Someone must know this. Anyone? Just oh God, there they are. They've all come through at once. All right, Vuk, you are our winner. Thank you very much. Could you answer on YouTube? If you could reach out to me on LinkedIn, Ben McCarthy, and I'll make sure you get your prize. All right, next. There are so many answers. Well done, everyone. You got it right. All right, next question. Which Dreamforce was Salesforce Lightning announced? I'm still getting the answers for the first quiz, first quiz answer. Which year Dreamforce, that probably should say. Aha, I have an answer. There are so many comments. I'm so sorry if I've missed someone, but I think Ryan had the right answer there. So thank you very much, Ryan. Cool, so let's move on. And we're going to bring Andy up to the stage. Hello, Andy. Andy, you're on. Hello. Andy, can you hear us? No, okay. Someone nudge Andy if that's all right. He's probably busy. But maybe, Eric, if you're free, maybe we can have a bit of a competition update.
There we go. Here we are.
Hey, Eric.
So a quick refresh of the dashboard. We already had 38 approved submissions. Great Britain is in the lead with submissions as a whole, with approved submissions as a whole, followed by Canada, US, Germany, and France. So that is our top 5 country-wise. Although with regards to the most submissions, we have a couple of participants already at 3 and even 4 level of submissions. So it's heating up. We're moving quickly. So
Great. Thank you very much, Eric.
Yep.
We will see you in a bit.
Yep.
Andy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I'm
indeed.
sorry.
That's all right. I'm sure you were busy.
Am I on mute? It's the joke of the era, right?
yeah, exactly. So thank you for being here, Andy, and thank you for being one of our judges. Would you mind just introducing yourself?
Yeah, my name is Andy Utkan, and I started using Salesforce more than 10 years ago. And for the last 3 years, I've been focusing on developing my own skills, and I learned that I love flows. So I love teaching flows. I presented a lot of Salesforce Saturday meetings and Trailblazer user groups. I have a YouTube channel and a website called SalesforceBen.com, and I have a Udemy class as well. So I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you very much for inviting me, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Andy. So I'd like to ask you a question about learning flows. So, I think to a lot of people, me included, when you first kind of load up Flow, it can be quite intimidating compared to workflow rules or process builder, which kind of have a simpler UI, but obviously flows are a lot more powerful. So how would you how do you advise your students how to think about Flow when they're first starting learning about it?
So I thought about this, and I wanted to give everybody actionable points. So I have 7 points that I have summarized this in. This is very important for especially new beginners, because I see a lot of questions coming from new beginners, new learners, and I see where they get stuck. I'm in a very good position to try and understand what comes very hard to people and what comes easy. So I would say number 1 point is develop an understanding of what process is. And I'm sure there are many young people out there, inexperienced people out there who have not done any process mapping. What is process? How do you map a process? How does business run? And what are the steps that a business needs to take to be successful, to hit the KPI success criteria? So that's the first fundamental way of thinking that you need to adopt if you don't have it already. Number 2 is use your resources really wisely. There are a lot of resources available to you. Trailhead, YouTube, blogs, Udemy classes, web courses. I have a course, and Daryl today, he's going to speak to you. He has a very good course, and there are many other people. And I get this question a lot in on the internet, in channels. Is there one resource that's going to teach me flows from A to Z? There is no such resource. There is no magic bullet. You have to put in the work. And that brings me to my 3rd point. You need to start small. I would recommend you start with record-triggered flows, because many people have been already exposed to process builders, workflow rules. And this is what the record-triggered flows are in the flow world. So that's the corresponding functionality. And if you're not very experienced with variables, the record-triggered flows help you to update the record that triggered the flow without having to worry about variables too much. And this is actually a nice entry into the flow world for you. Having a grand vision is great, but you have to build up your skills step by step. Number 4, try and experiment. I know Yoda says do or do not. There is no try, but there is try actually in this world. You have to try. And you are going to learn by putting in the work, the sweat, and you are going to fail. You are going to troubleshoot your own failures and problems. That's very important in your learning. And number 5, learn where you go when you get stuck. I actually run a Slack workspace, Salesforce break, and there is a Ohanaly Slack, there is Discord, there's Salesforce Answers, Trailblazer groups. Interact with people. and understand what their use cases are. Try and help them and learn in the process. This is similar to coding. There's a reason why there's a peer review in coding. By meeting other people, establishing study groups, you can actually learn much better. So interact with other people. Number 6, this is going to be a little bit controversial. Maybe Adam is not going to like this one, but don't get overly worried about the rules as long as you are in a sandbox or developer org, right? Learn how to get things done, get it done, and then tweak it and optimize it. Find a naming convention that works for you. Don't try and memorize a naming convention and get started that way, right? So learn the rules and learn to break the rules as long as things work for you. There is not one way of doing things, right? And if you're looking back to your first flow and you're not embarrassed about your flow, you have not started early enough, right? So go to YouTube, look at the first video that Mr. Beast has. It's embarrassing. It should be embarrassing. And number 7, build your skills as you go along. If you lack the fundamentals of Salesforce administration, you won't go very far. So go back and review those topics. And I'm actually working on a blog post right now for SalesforceBen. It's going to be published very soon. Stay tuned. And when it's published, you are going to see what are the fundamentals that you need to know to build advanced flows. And for today, for all the viewers, we are going to be giving away 5 course vouchers, my courses. And if anybody is interested to purchase the course at Udemy, they can use the FlowFest 1 code, FlowFest, and the number 1 to get a discounted price on that. Thank you very much, Ben.
Great. Cheers, Andy. Thank you. We'll see you later. Great. Thank you very much, Andy. Cool. So we've had our competition update from Eric, and the UK is winning, which is fantastic. So now we're going to be bringing in Melody. Hey, Melody.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Yeah. How's it going?
Doing okay. How about you?
Good. Yeah. All good. Thank you. So I believe you're going to show us. Actually, no. Well, first off, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself.
Of course. So my name is Melody, and I have been in Salesforce for about 3 years, currently working as a Salesforce consultant. And I'm also the founder for Salesforce Blossom, which is a blog that helps an admin and beginners to learn flow in an easy manner.
Cool, great, thank you, Melody. And just before we go into the flow review, something that I think would be great to tell our audience is there's a product coming out called Flow Orchestrator, or Salesforce Orchestrator. And so why is this so? What does this product do, and why is it so important to Flow?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. But I think before we go into that question, we have to understand what Flow Orchestrator really is. And I think the easiest way to understand it is to compare it with approval process. So like approval process is an aggregation of workflows, and Flow Orchestrator, on the other hand, is an aggregation of flows. So why do we need an aggregation of flow? Is because if we look at a specific or a single flow, it's actually linear, meaning that things always happen one after the other, and it only invokes one specific user at a time. So if we have a Flow Orchestrator, it really opens up the possibility to run flows in parallel, and also involves multiple users as well. So that actually just breaks through the limitation of flow being only linear. So that's why Flow Orchestration is a really exciting new feature.
Very cool. Thank you, Melody. And I think it's GA now, right? It's just come out in yeah, exactly. So everyone can have a play around. Cool. Well, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen, it would be great if you could walk us through some of the flows. And I think I'm right in saying that when we were doing the testing with the judges, Melody was the fastest one to complete all the flows challenges. So we have the best possible person here to take us through one of these flows.
I try to be.
No offense to the other judges.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. All right, can you see my screen well?
Yeah, we can see the challenge sheet.
Yes. All right, so the format of reviewing the flow challenges is, instead of going through the entire solution, we're just going to bring out the important concepts for the first 3 challenges. So let's get started with the first one. So the first challenge we have is we're going to find the close won opportunity with the highest amount, and then we're going to update the annual revenue field on the account. So if we look at the field, if we look at the flow, one first important concept is in the get records element, you have the sort records option. So you can sort all your records based on a specific field in ascending or descending order. So if you use get records element together with this sort records, also together with only the first record, you can easily get the largest amount opportunity or the oldest close date opportunity. So this feature is a very handy one if you're building more complex flow solutions. And for the first challenge, I also want to bring out that many people might just use an update records and then choose the specify conditions option. So this is not wrong to do it, but the better practice will be actually creating an account variable and then update the ID and the target fields using an assignment. And at the end, in the update records element, you should use the first option. The reason why this is more efficient is that now you can save one SOQL query. So that's going to make your flow a lot more efficient or more efficient. So that's the points for challenge 1. All right, so if we look at challenge 2, we are finding a close one opportunity and create a task with a date of 3 days from today. So for this challenge, we are actually just testing you to write a formula. So if we look at the second challenge, we are actually just testing you to write a 3 days from now formula. But here, there's an interesting discussion about whether, like, when you should use formula resources and when you should use formula fields. So I would say if you need to see the formula in the record page, or if you need to see the formula, if you need to use the formula in multiple places, or if you just simply couldn't build that formula in Flow, then you can consider using formula fields. If you're only using the formula for a specific flow, try to build it as a formula resource. All right, then we move on to the third challenge is that we are finding an account and all its contacts. We're also finding all the contacts whose title has SVP. And at the end, we want to find how many records are in those two collections and update the account. So that's the third challenge. So if we move to the third challenge, the first point we want to bring up is the new element called collection filter. So for this collection filter, you can put in an existing collection and then you can add additional conditions. So if you do so, the system will create a new collection. So here you can see I have the original collection and I also have a new collection. So you don't have to use the get record elements again. So that's going to save another SOQL to make your flow more efficient. And the second point we have here is if you want to count how many records you have in a collection, you can either use a loop, but a better practice will be using the equals count operator in assignment. So you can just simply use this operator to count how many records you have in any collection. But me personally have another method is to use the length formula. So there's no right or wrong about the solutions. It all depends on which one is more efficient and which one fits your business requirements. And finally, because we're updating accounts, so again, instead of using the specified conditions, the better practice will be updating the account variable and then use the first option. That's going to save you another SOQL query. So these are just some tiny tips to kind of build your flow more efficiently.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Melody.
No problem.
Some great tips in there. Cool. Well, thank you for your time, and we will see you later.
Yes.
See you in a bit. Great. Sorry, let me just get my screen up again. Okay, cool. Right, we've got another quiz. Very sorry, it looks like there is a bit of a lag on maybe LinkedIn, what people are saying. So maybe answer the quiz questions on YouTube or go over to the YouTube stream. I will try my best to pick the first person, but I think we've got about 700 people on this stream, which is crazy. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And yeah, I will do my best to pick the correct individual. But Andy has just shared a discount code to his course as well, so you can get one pretty cheap if you don't win. Cool. So, what was forward-looking statement called before it was renamed? everyone must know forward-looking statement, but what was it called before it was renamed?
And extra points, what was it called if you do it in a Boston accent?
Yeah, very good point. Okay, I think YouTube is definitely winning here, and Simone, you are the winner. Thank you very much. Please message me on LinkedIn, Ben McCarthy, and we will get your prize sent out. Okay, so this next question, you don't have to be around in Salesforce long to get this one, but so let's go for it. In Salesforce's recent Super Bowl advert, which 3 companies did Salesforce poke fun at? I think there actually might be 4 that they were poking fun at, but first person to get 3 of them will win. Safe harbor. Yes, that is if you do it in a Boston accent. Oh, I don't know who to pick. Oh, hold on, let me just So, okay, I'm going to pick Andrea. You were the first one. Thank you very much. Yes, they did poke fun at Facebook, or actually, technically, it would be Meta, but I'll let it slip. Meta for going to the metaverse, Amazon or Blue Origin, and Tesla or SpaceX for flying into space and not worrying about what's going on here on Earth. So yes, please message me on LinkedIn, and we'll get your prize sent out. Cool. Now we're going to go for another Q&A. I'm going to bring Daryl Moon to the stage. Daryl, are you ready?
I am, Ben. Good morning.
Hey, Daryl. How's
Afternoon.
it going? Or very early in the,
very early in the morning here, 3:30 in the morning in
is it? Oh wow, wow.
Sunny
Yeah, well, thank
Queensland.
you. Thank you very much for being here. So Daryl, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, that'd be great.
Yes, I've been in the, I started as an accidental admin, went into a role to clean up some spreadsheets for a couple of weeks on a short-term contract. That turned out that those spreadsheets contained data that was going to be imported into a CRM, and pretty quickly fell into the role of Salesforce administrator. We didn't have the budget to send me off to a week-long administration course, but I did manage to negotiate with my manager to get a couple of hours study a week. And she also agreed to pay the exam if I was successful. So I was pretty much left up to my own devices to collect up some training material. And this is just before Trailhead was launched. So I did find lots of blogs and videos on YouTube and so forth, and pretty much became self-taught, but I collected a lot of useful resources along the way. And because I come from a teaching background and I had used online learning platforms before, I collected all these things and put them into my own little course that I thought, well, that would be helpful for me to have everything in one place. And from there, I thought this was a really helpful resource, and I got through and passed my exam, and I shared it out to a few other people, and it took off rapidly. And now at Certified CRM, we've got nudging close to 10,000 students since we've started operation about 6.5, 7 years ago.
Amazing. Thank you, Daryl. And yeah, go check out Certified CRM. Some great courses on there. So Daryl, I wanted to ask you, and some people in the comments have kind of been speaking about this, and so did Adam, but which is unofficialsf.com, which is a resource by, I think possibly Salesforce employees. You might be able to confirm me on that. But you know, they blog a lot about flow and extending flow. And I'd love to get your take on, you know, what unofficial SF is, and, you know, what people can learn from it.
Yeah, so it's a great website that has a lot of components that can enhance your flow. Just back to the people behind it. Yes, there are some Salesforce employees running it, but it is an unofficial channel, so it's not official, so it's not gone through all the security certifications and so forth like an App Exchange app has. Having said that, though, there are some great resources there. A couple of my favorites are the data table from Eric Smith. That is fantastic because you can present in a Screenflow a table of records. Maybe you want to have a table of leads and then have users selectively go through and select which ones they want to delete or update or whatever it may be. I've used it for a product wizard where we've got a complex set of products to choose and we want to guide the users through. So I present filtered views of products and the users can go through and select those from a data table. One of my other favorites is the confetti, which is anybody familiar with adding confetti to the end of an opportunity path. So you get to closed one and all the confetti rains down on the screen. There's a similar one in there that you can put in for your flows. However, it has lots more confetti options. And a place I worked at recently had an ex-army guy there, and he kept getting these. So he was monitoring a queue of leads, and he would get cases come in on there. So they weren't sales leads, but they were actually cases. So I wrote a little flow for him that would convert those leads into a case and basically get him out of his hair. And at the end of it, the flow shot 2 cannons of confetti from either side. So being an ex-army guy, he loved blowing up these leads and converting them into cases. So that was it was just like a little highlight of his day when he was able to do one of those. A little bit of fun.
Nice, very cool. You gotta love confetti, no matter who you are. So thank you very much, Daryl. And check out it's unofficialsf.com, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Go check that out. So thank you very much, Daryl. We'll see you in a bit.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, we're going to have another Q&A before going into another quiz. And apologies for anyone if you were actually before. The comments come through from LinkedIn in one kind of chat on the software that we're using, so it might not be importing them at the same rate. So we'll try and find a better solution for next time. But thank you anyway. Great. So I'm going to bring up Pete to the stage. If you're ready, Pete. I think you are. Or 2 seconds. We'll give Pete a second. Can't hear you, I'm afraid. Can't hear you. We can 1 second. All right. I can always go to the quiz. The website was unofficialsf.com, if that's what you were referring to, Ravi.
How about now?
What I can, yes, okay. You are live and kicking. How's it going, Pete?
Warren, could you please take care of Matthew?
Yeah, the judges are all very busy in the background validating challenges, so we won't take up much of your time, Pete.
All right. How's it going?
So, Pete, yeah, really good. Having a great time. A lot of people on the live stream, so it's good to see everyone. So, yeah, it'd be great to get an introduction from yourself, Pete.
Well, I'm born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I worked as a cook for about 12 years. For the last 5 of that, I kind of discovered my passion for technology. I started fishing computers out of the trash and fixing them up and baking video cards in my oven to reflow solder damage quite successfully. And I did that for about 5 years. Somehow that turned into a Salesforce consulting gig. Let's turn the volume down on the other PC there. I've been doing this for about 7 years now. I never looked back. My passions within the Salesforce ecosystem are pretty much flows and Tableau CRM, formerly Einstein Analytics. I love pushing the platform to its limits. I built board games on it, so I have an installable version of Blackjack that uses 0 Apex. So, yeah, that's me.
Wow, very cool. Thank you, Pete. A proper trailblazer story from chef to Pete Lyons, MVP. It'll be great to hear. So about some of these, I remember you told me about some of these apps that you've built, but one which is quite interesting, especially for me in particular, is a random number generator that you built with Flow. Is that right?
Yeah, so random number generation is kind of a golden apple of declarative automation in that, people always looked for it, but there's not a ton of really good business cases. Typically, whenever a client has asked me for a random number generator, usually we end up with an answer like, well, have you considered using queues? And there's usually a best practice solution that makes that completely, useless to you. But if you want to make a board game or you want to just have a dice roller or something fun, it's a great thought experiment. It took me a while to really nail it down. And I did this originally for Risk. But I actually buckled and I wrote the 3-line trigger for crypto.random integer so I could have my dice roller, but I never gave up. And eventually I did solve it. And the trick has to do with the behavior of date times and the now function. So when you call the now function in a flow, it's true to the millisecond. So if you do something like, well, what is now minus today? It's going to be the number of days that have passed since midnight GMT. So if you do it at noon, you'll get a 0.5. But that value, unlike a date time field that cuts off after the seconds, that value actually does run to millisecond precision. So if you multiply it by the number of milliseconds in a day and just trim off that rightmost character, you have a random integer that is recycling itself 100 times a second. So then it's just a matter of giving the system a little busy work. So go run some random query. What time is it? Run some other random query. What time is it now? And I can actually generate 100 integer strings on a single user click. Takes about 1.5 seconds. And then you just chop that up, do whatever kind of math you want on it. And that's how you can generate all sorts of random numbers. So the simplest example I have is actually a five node Screenflow, where basically you choose the number of dice you have and how many face you want them to have. It runs its little randomizer and then it gives you the outputs. And I'll actually post the I'll share the link with you in the private chat, Ben. But that's also an installable package.
Cool, great. Yeah, that's very smart. I've always wondered how you would create a random number generation in Salesforce, and you might be one of the only people to have actually done it. So very cool to hear how you've done it.
Yep, Andrew Jackson, his blog is SFDC in C-Town. He was actually kind of an inspiration and for that. And as far back as I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, he was able to do quasi random number generation by manipulating timestamps and record IDs. But if you data loaded into it, it'd be really streaky. This is, not exactly Flow best practice to run 100 SOQL queries in a single transaction, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you very much for that, Pete, and we'll see you in a bit. All right, so another quick. Oh God, I thought there was another screen in between that. All right, so hopefully you didn't see that. So I will go to it. 1, 2, 3 now. Which website partly inspired the idea for Salesforce in the late 90s? And again, I will try my very best to pick the person that was first, but it might be a little bit wrong on my screen. All right, let me just wait until some answers come through. I can see a right one there. I'll just make sure that I'm picking the one that is the first one on my screen, which is Danini. Congratulations. Yes, it was Amazon. So Mark Benioff, when he had the idea for Salesforce, he wanted CRM to be as easy as Amazon was to order it. So this is kind of where the tabs along the top came from. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Danini, and we'll get you your prize sent out. Right. So how many quizzes have we done? We've done 1, 2. So I think we've got about 4 more prizes left. So I'm gonna pick so for the next question, if anyone gets it right, then you'll get a prize. If anyone gets close to it, then you'll also get a prize as well, because it is quite hard. So 3, 2, 1. What is this? it is kind of related to Salesforce. I mean, it is related to Salesforce, but loosely. All right. Oh God, I'm still getting answers for the previous question. Maniac mention. Minecraft's not Minecraft. I don't think anyone is getting close at all. Oh, this one really was hard. All right. We haven't got too long left. So, we do have a right answer. I don't know who it is, but it was actually Mark Benioff's, one of his first video games he created. So before, when he was 17 or something, he founded a company called Liberty Software. And this game was called King Arthur's Heir. And if you go on YouTube and type in King Arthur's Heir, you can actually see that. So whoever you are, please message me on LinkedIn. I've also got another one there. Jennifer, congratulations. Let me just see if we've got another one. Right, Jens. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Tracy, you can have a prize. Yeah, I think that's all. So yeah, if you message me on LinkedIn, we'll get one out to you. I think there was also someone on a previous question who didn't get a prize. Someone, Fox. So we've got one more prize left out. So if you message me, I think you were the first one, as confirmed by other people. So we'll get you a prize as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for participating. Okay, before we announce the winner, we've got one more Q&A. Hello, Warren, are you there?
Hey, I am here. I am helping coordinate a few things in the background. So if I have to stop for a second to get that checked out, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We won't keep you too long. We're just about to announce the winner. So Warren, if you could just introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. So I am Warren Walters. I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem for around 6 years. I'm primarily a developer, but I do have a really soft spot in my heart for flows. And as a developer, I really recommend that everybody, learns all of the different aspects of Salesforce. So a little bit about myself. I live out in Florida. I have a cat. Recently got married. But on the Salesforce side, I've been working as a consultant for about 3 to 4 years now. I need to get that right. And, in various capacities. So anywhere from pre-sales to delivery, designing code, architecture, and post-sales and a lot of those things. And yeah, really excited to be a part of the competition and super happy that it really blew up. And excited to see who's the actual winner.
Yeah, me too. So thanks for that, Warren. And I suppose, we haven't really focused on kind of how developers can interact with flows so far, but is it possible to use custom components inside of flows?
It totally is. So as a developer, you have a few different options for interacting with flows. And as an admin, similar to what we spoke about earlier, you need to understand when those different opportunities arises. And so I think Adam mentioned that, and also Daryl. At a certain point, your flows can only go so far. New functionality is being added every release, which is great, but there is a reason that Apex exists, and it's important to holistically understand when it's better to do one thing over the other. So that being said, you can embed Lightning Web components and or components inside of flows, and those are really the tip of the iceberg in terms of the visual aspect of things. You can also create things called invocable methods, and that will allow for your Apex code to run similar to an auto launch flow. So those are just high level overviews. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's really about understanding what the best tool that you have at your disposal is to use at any given time. Cool.
Great. Thanks, Warren. And last question, how how far can you take flows? Can you use them to integrate with another system, for example?
You totally can. So similar to what I was mentioning about the invocable methods, you can literally create your Apex code in a way so that you can send all of your flow information, your variables into that Apex action, and that will then do your integration call out. That being said, there are some best practices that you'll need to follow and some walls that you'll hit, because flows, similar to triggers, they don't really like doing synchronous callouts. And what that really means is when you do an integration call out to another system from Salesforce, there's time in between how long it takes for that communication to happen. So you don't want your user just hanging out there and waiting for that to get finished. Even if it's 5 seconds, that's a long time for a user. So you want to do those callouts asynchronously. There are a few other things like external connections that you can make, which are less code intensive. And those things use like Swagger APIs to literally build an integration that's drag and drop and plug and play in your flows. So that's also another thing to look into. That will be really helpful.
Cool, great. Thank you very much, Warren. I'll let you get on. Cheers.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to bring Eric up to the stage.
All right.
Switch my screen. So, Eric, talk us through the competition.
It's been an interesting one in the background. A lot of people submitted. We definitely have. I haven't updated in a minute, but I can actually I can share here. We can see how many people have submitted. Challenge number 5 already. We already have 22 people that have managed to complete all 5. The final challenge, which means they went through all 5 challenges. Can't seem to refresh, but we have over 200 submissions already. Looks like Great Britain has been leading, and we are finally ready to announce a winner. Literally, it came on the second you brought me on because we were finishing the revisions. So the runner-up, with getting everything right, the runner-up in second place, and actually I have to pull where this person is from because I'm curious, so we can announce the countries. Representing Great Britain in second place, Tom Bassett. Tom Bassett takes the second place. He submitted everything correctly on all attempts. He was beat out by, and I have to 1 second so I can bring up this individual's nationality as well. And all right, I actually don't know where this country code is. Israel. All right, so taking the winner, the Flow champion of FlowFest, is Yumi Ibrahimzad, if I pronounced that correctly. So Yumi, he has beaten Tom Bassett. He is the official Flow champion, submitted everything correctly, and he will be the winner of the 2 cert vouchers for first place. Now, our judges as we go, just as we're wrapping this up here, our judges as we go are still reviewing several submissions. So the top 10, as we mentioned, are going to get cert vouchers. There are definitely more than 10, like I mentioned, 22 that our judges are currently working through. But if you have not finished, we're going to switch it over to the we're going to switch over to the best practices section and the review. I'm instructing all of the judges, if you can hear me, because I can't write to you right now, but finish whatever the ones that you are completing, and the ones that you are reviewing. Once you're finished, judges, with the ones you're reviewing, feel free to stop and jump back into the StreamYard so we can kind of chat a little bit about best practices. And at the same time, anyone that does not have their challenges reviewed, after this event is done, we will commit to reviewing all of them. Feel free to submit all of your challenges. We will be more than happy to provide some feedback. Just as an FYI to all of our participants, you may have seen the text or the chat on Slack. the email notifications, we managed to hit the limit of daily email notifications on our org. So we will be following up afterwards via email to let you know of your challenges and your results. But feel free to submit all of your challenges. And then again, by order of those who submitted, we will round up the top 10, and we'll make sure that everyone gets notified and gets their cert voucher. But a big thank you to Trailhead for that. So Ben, I'll pass it to you for the final wrap up.
Yeah, so first up, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that's come along today to watch the first FlowFest. This is definitely something we are going to be doing going forward. And I can announce that we have a date in the diary for the next FlowFest. FlowFest V2, 25th of May, same time. And do you have the link for that, Eric, that you could drop in the
I can probably get the link.
I've got a bit.ly up there, or a SalesforceBen link that you can sign up to. We'll be creating the LinkedIn event a bit later on. But yes, feel free to sign up now as a challenger or just a viewer, spectator. So just as a reminder for anyone that didn't know, you do have to sign up as a competitor and be chosen. We'll try and let as many people in as we can, but there is a certain limit just because flows do have to be manually checked. So yes, I'm going to bow out now and let the actual experts talk about the flows. So I'm still going to be around, but yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for everyone for joining today, all of our judges, and especially Eric, who's put a huge amount of effort into a lot of the back end stuff of this competition. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Eric, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. And
Cool.
just because I'm really big into it, Bruno's asking if the shirts are from São Paulo. Yes, those two shirts are from the São Paulo soccer team, and then there's one from Roma if there's any Italians here. But once again, big congratulations to the winners. We are going to kick off the session here. Judges, let me just double check which judges are available. And we will start getting this kicked off. For everyone that's sticking around, this is the second part of the meeting here. We're going to basically go quickly over some of the best practices, some of the things that we've liked, some of the things that we've seen. We're going to answer any questions. And answering by Andrea Carvalho, I will not get a Vasco jersey on my wall. But I hope everyone enjoyed it. And let's see who is. All right, so I'll kick it off as some of the judges are wrapping up. I see several of them are still currently judging some of the pieces. And on my side, let me bring Warren in. Warren, welcome. Welcome, Warren.
All right, I'll leave it to the big boys. See you later.
All right. Thank you, Ben. So, Warren, I'm going to bring it in here. What are some of the cool things that you saw with regards to some of the flow challenges, that were submitted? Were you able to take a look at anything in particular? And you're on mute, my friend. On live on camera.
Yeah, it's the classic thing. So yeah, I did take a look at a lot of these submissions. I was working a little bit in the background, but what I can say is that one of the things that really set the winners apart is knowing some of the new functionality that exists in that the platform has been getting over the years. So things like doing equals count for specific sections. That if you aren't familiar with that, then you'll start just doing loops to get everything that you need. Where if you're able to do the equals count function, then you will save yourself a significant amount of time. Similarly, just understanding anything that's new on the platform, and this is why it's important to keep up with any of the new changes on the platform. Yeah, so, I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, whenever you're ready to finish the thought, I'll bring in. I was gonna share the flow. I was trying to look up the flow that had the equals count to try to save up and share with you on screen.
Yeah, let's totally do that, and we'll talk through that a little bit because I think it's super powerful. And when I first started, things like equals count and doing these type of roll ups inside of flows wasn't really thought about because of the time complexity that existed with it. You almost always went to code and trigger for these types of things, and now with these new capabilities and flows, it really allows for you to do more things inside of flow to where before you were ending up going into code.
Yep. So I'll share here one example. Let's bring it up, and then also I want to bring onto the stream. The winner of the competition, Mr. Flow Champion, Yumi. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing, man?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Listen, congratulations.
Thank you.
We're talking a little bit about some of the equals count, but what do you think of the challenges overall? Yumi,
I didn't understand the question.
What do you think of the challenges? Like, what did you think of?
I mean, the first ones were pretty easy, but the last one had many steps, and I had a chance to use the new features, which is collection filter. So yeah, it was a great example. I mean, there are more ways to solve it, of course, to do another get, but yeah, I like the use case.
That was one of the interesting things as we were going through, mostly because, we, like you mentioned, there's so many different ways. When we're putting these challenges together, there's so many different ways. Even our judges, when they were doing it, we found different ways of going about it. So, but here's, an example, just to kind of just bringing it up. So what Yumi's talking about is a great tool called Collection Filter. We put this one in because we thought it was a cool, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Spring 22 release.
Yeah, it's new.
Yeah, so it's brand new. And a lot of times, if you wanted to make better use of collections in terms of, repurposing them instead of having to do multiple gets to try to get where you're looking for, or running the risk of looping to try to eliminate certain items after you use the collection, you can use filters now. So effectively, if you want to put a big piece, if you want to put, like, let's just say, I want to get all contacts, right? In this particular example, I want to get all contacts under an account, and I want to do a equals count, as we were mentioning, right? So we have the count of all contacts, and we just use that same get, but equally we can get contacts of a specific job title, right? And then use the filters, that comes out of this collection. So that way you're simplifying. And the best practice here, I like to say, you want to try to avoid as much pink as possible in your flows. And this is a great tool for that. So just some good piece in here. And let's see, I'm also just want to see, so judges, whoever wants, feel free to ping me and I'll bring you back in if you guys are ready. So that way I can bring you in on board. Warren, any points or any other good feedback or any other good practices that you wanna bring on board?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of it, but it's really when you're starting to work with more complex flows, understanding some of the limitations or the limits that exist out there. So I'm sure a bunch of people have heard of like SOCL query limits and things like that. So, or DML limits that exist, and pretty much like Eric was saying, a lot of the pink elements that exist inside of flows, they trigger DML operations. So Salesforce has an intrinsic limit of 100 a limit of 100 DML operations within an entire transaction. So as soon as you start to do things like loop in loop variables or loop specific items, and let's say you have a DML operation inside of that, you could potentially hit that limit once you have 100 records or 100 iterations of whatever you're working on.
Right. Pete, welcome to the party.
Hey, there was some extreme multitasking going on. Did anybody do the evil update?
What was the evil update?
Oh, challenge 4, where rather than to reparent instead of looping over everything, you've already got the ID, so you just do a single update node and push the ID in.
I don't know, Yumi. How did Yumi do? Like, how did he complete challenge 4?
I did update all the contacts that ID equals to this or equals to this.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because as we were all like ideating over, what are reasonable challenges, how long should it take, and it immediately became apparent that many of the challenges could be solved in different ways. Like Eric was showing me tricks I didn't know. I was showing Eric tricks he didn't know. I think that events like this really give us a great opportunity to kind of just compare and contrast how we do stuff. And we get so boxed in with our own ideas of what is best practice. And best practice can be different things to different people. I think we can all agree, thou shalt not DML in a loop. I mean, unless you need to.
Right.
But sometimes approaches, especially around naming conventions. For me, I don't have a particular naming style I want to stick to, but whatever you're going to use, pick one and stick to it. That's absolutely essential. Don't bounce around all willy-nilly. It's got to be consistent, because sooner or later someone's going to have to come along and fix whatever you or build on top of whatever you've built. And having that consistency makes it a lot easier to navigate.
All right. And Andy, before I bring you in, just one final piece. Yumi's got to go. Yumi, congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we'll really great job, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you once again. All right, we'll catch up with you in a bit.
Okay.
All right. So back to the group here. All right, Andy. I think I'm going to start bringing up some questions that we can ask. But what do you think before we go to questions that people are posting in? What do you think?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I was able to. I actually judged Yumi's work, and I looked at it, and I make him overall champion. At the same time, I make him also the finesse champion, because he used the collection filter element. He's up to date. If you're following Yumi, he has a great blog. I think it's called Salesforce Time. Is it? I follow him. So, you make sure you follow him. He is super fast. As most of you guys know, I spend a lot of time doing flows, but I'm super slow. Probably he did it in half the time that I could do it. But he did, like Pete mentioned, he did also the update the right way. He didn't loop through it. It was fantastic. And I want to take this time to thank you, Eric, because, this thing actually went pretty smooth. Murphy must have taken the day off. I don't know, because there were so many things that could have gone wrong with this, and we were all getting a little bit nervous. I've never operated this many screens, this many computers and Slacks and streaming platforms at the same time before, and I've done a lot of that. But I've never had 2 Zooms, 2 StreamYards open or something like that. So, shout out to AT&T Fiber and the computers and the screens. So everything went well. And thank you very much. It was a lot of fun for me. And thanks for everybody for following.
Yeah. So let me do this. Let me bring in a question. Someone posted up. Would a collection filter help eliminate record lock when the same record is being referenced to update a related record?
I'm going to take a guess that, and I have no idea, but my guess is no. And I would say, when in doubt, test. Best way to learn Salesforce. You see a button that you don't understand, click it. You have a question that you don't know the answer to, try it.
Yep. No, totally. I'm with you. I think it's the accidental admin way, or whatever we're calling it nowadays. People will just jump in and, figure out if it works or figure out a way around it.
I think Adam has an opinion on that one.
Actually.
Yeah,
Can we bring you in, Adam? can we ask you for your?
I was
for your
just
2
about to
cents?
comment, and I'm pretty sure he has the correct answer. I didn't want to mess.
Yeah, I was holding my tongue too.
You're on
You're on
mute,
mute.
Adam.
You're on mute. Adam.
Double muted. Yeah, double muted.
There you go.
My mic was muted. So I still want to hear your opinions, obviously, but I would say probably not. As you kind of go through your architect's journey, one of the certs that is covered is large data volumes. And whenever I hear about record locks, it's usually talking about a lot of records being updated at once. One of the things, and especially in like data loading scenarios, is sorting. And if you're updating related records, not, I don't know what scenario you're referring to, but one of the things that you're supposed to do when you update large data volumes is sort by the parent record that's being updated, so that there's not a cascading effect of like different records being updated at different times, because that will undoubtedly result in record locks. But that's usually for update and create situations. Collection filter is more about stuff that happens within memory in Flow. So it's a lot of CPU heavy activity. So I don't know that would necessarily do anything about record locks.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for Adam. So one thing I always learned, whenever you meet somebody that has a chance to actually influence this thing that you care about, make sure to ask them for something. Could we get ID in collection?
Yeah. So on that note, that was actually asked during the release readiness, a couple weeks ago. And the way I responded to that was, I am a squeaky wheel on that feature internally to all the other PMs. And so I have made it my personal mission to make sure that sees the light of day, I'll just say. So it's not something that is easy to do, I have learned. So one of the challenges is bulkification and the way we bulkify record triggered flows, for example. So in the old days of process builder, like way long ago, things weren't really bulkified, which is we basically combine all the different transactions and processes and flows and all the things and make it more efficient so that we don't hit limits. Now, one of the things I've learned is to do in well, it requires a lot of massaging of how we bulkify things. So if we were to bring it in over, it would be relatively straightforward to do for Screenflows because those transactions are relatively, confined in scope. But for record triggered flows, it's actually fairly complex. So it's something that we still want to do. It's definitely on our to-do list. Unfortunately, it has taken longer than necessary or than wanted because of how difficult it is to do. But definitely on the roadmap. Can't really give you a time frame though.
Cool. Good to know.
I love that we are having a QA time. And I also have one question for you, Adam. Might be a silly one.
What did I get myself into here?
Might be a silly one, but why do we always have to use 2 assignments inside a loop? When adding record to a collection, that is.
Yeah, so this is a deeper level one that I've asked myself in the past, and it has to do with how flows create collections of data. And I'm trying to remember what it was. And I think I could be totally wrong here, but I think it's a similar issue with Apex where flow collections are, I believe, immutable, which means they can't directly be manipulated. So you basically have to start from scratch each time. I think it has to do with the immutability aspect of collections. I'd have to look it up to be double sure, but it has to do with how collections are treated under the hood.
And I can, I guess, speak a little bit on that. Not too much to dig myself into a hole or anything like that. But speaking on the Apex side of things, generally when you're iterating over a collection in a similar fashion in code, you aren't able to change the collection as you're iterating over the items because you could run into a whole host of issues. But one example I'll give you right now. So let's say you have like a list of 5 accounts, and you're iterating over that list, and then you create a brand new account from some information like a child one, and you add it back to that list. And that continues to happen over and over again. So I think just speaking from that simple example, that's one reason that their collections are immutable. But I'm sure there are more technical reasons under the hood that you have to deal with it.
Yep. Thanks for refreshing.
And by the way, I'm just jumping in here for everyone that's watching. Make sure to submit your questions. Like, you have so much awesome flow skill and talent and experience here. If you guys ever had questions, like, this is the time and the place to ask them. So I'll pick this one up here that just came in. I'm not sure who wants to tackle this one, but what is considered best practice for validating user input on flow screens when working on non-required fields? I'm not sure if I get this one. He followed up, if the user leaves the field blank and the field is not required, the flow doesn't validate.
Can I take this one? So typically what I would do for this is after the screen, you push to a decision element and check what the output of those variables are. And you perform your validation with a decision element. And then from that, you redirect them back to another screen that says, hey, you did it wrong. Push them back to the screen where they initially put their input. Now you can default those input. Now, the next problem that this leads to is now the entire screen's blank. Some of these variable types, like a text variable or a number variable, you can repopulate with itself. So if it's like my text input 3, you can say set my text input 3 to default to my text input 3. So when they pass out to that decision element, that value is no longer null. When they return back to the screen telling them they did it wrong, it's going to pre-populate that. But it doesn't work with things like pick list values, record choice or record collection choices. It doesn't work with all input types. So it's kind of incomplete. To that end, I usually just leave everything blank, or I will use the, there are some validation things that there's some validation methods that work within the screen itself. One dirty trick that you can do is, like, if you want to make sure that they put something into a text box, well, yes, you can check that as required. But like sometimes if they don't type anything in it, it doesn't really seem like it checks it. So I'll default it to a single blank character. So then it's not null. Similarly, if you don't default a checkbox to false, checkboxes and flows actually have 3 states: true, false, and null. So if you try to run a decision and say, you know, did they make it true or did they make it false? If you don't set a default, it's not going to pick that up as false. So validation can be a little bit tricky. The hop through to a decision and try again method works reasonably well, but does have some caveats.
All right.
Well said.
Yeah. So Rakesh and Daryl, we didn't get a chance to see you guys talk too much. I want to give you guys a chance. Do you guys want to pick? Do you guys have a particular question, or do you guys want to? I can bring in some questions, ask you guys, or if you guys want to give a quick shout out of what you liked, like if you've seen anything that stood out to you during the competition that someone put together. Daryl, you want to jump in first?
Yes. Joe has just asked a question about what is the best flow architecture. Is it one record triggered flow or many? I think the answer to this question has changed a little bit now with the Flow Trigger Explorer, and that we can set the order of execution. So the issue before was if you had a number of record triggered flows on one object, you had no guarantee in which order they were going to run in, so they could have got all out of sequence. However, that's now no longer the issue, in that we can set the order in which they run. So, yeah, that's an interesting one where the answer has changed over a very short period of time when the Trigger Explorer came out. Adam, you might want to comment on how you're going to make that even better shortly.
Well, I guess the best flow architecture is the one that fits for your org. There is no best flow architecture. It's plain and simple. We're going to be releasing updates to the record triggered guide very soon, the next few weeks, hopefully, that'll answer that very question. But spoiler alert, there is no best flow architecture. It depends entirely on your organization. So that's a bit of a cop out, but it is the truth. And Daryl's right that with the introduction of being able to order your flows with the Flow Trigger Explorer and the new advanced settings, it does make things more flexible for orgs. So I would argue that it creates more options. So, you know, for some that might be a little disconcerting, but I will just say that it gives more flexibility on ordering your flows, because that was always the big knock on multiple flows. So I will just say it depends.
And I will argue on that if you are an enterprise, you may want to think about the data volume, not best practice, simplicity and maintainability. So you may have to, I will argue for having one record trigger flow per object rather than having multiple.
Yeah, and it depends on how many people are in the same system, because flow metadata is historically challenging when you've got 10 people all editing the same flow. So it's not code. So you may want to consider breaking up your flows from a business standpoint. Like if you've got 5 different processes that touch cases, maybe you have one flow that manages these types of cases, one flow that manages these types of cases, and just be communicative. Like talk with your team about the things that you're doing. The important thing is that you're talking with your team with the updates that you're making to these flows.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in here. One use case in my consulting is pulled me to do record trigger flows by record type. So an object that has different record types, like the concept, and this is before Orchestrator and like all those items, but the concept is basically make sure that the only one flow is triggering at the same time. And if it's a different department that manages a different record type, great, there's the flow that you guys do. Let's just agree that this flow only fires on records of this record type versus the other. And that's been one of the things that we've been trying out with one customer with some pretty good success. So that's my 2 cents there.
Either you use one versus other options, but make sure to use Subflow and don't write same logic again and again.
Yeah, subflows are fun. There are some subflows that we put together. Warren may know the error message subflow that we have at Ohanaly that I use that like butter. We have the error message subflow that just like whenever we have to put a fault path on a Screenflow, I'll just immediately, I have this general error message Screenflow that I'll just slap out on every single fault path imaginable. So that way the end user sees something a little bit better than just a lot of red fonts and just saying, gibberish for most end users anyhow. So, it's, subflows are a really good thing. I love subflows when you can start playing around with it and get more familiar with it. Guys, it's 1:27. I know a lot of people submitted questions and everything, but given that we're about to finish, and Daryl, I think it's like somewhere like 5 in the morning, 2 days from now, where you're at.
Up past 4 in the morning.
I'll start with you. Any finishing thoughts? Anything that you want to wrap up, and I'll give everyone a chance to kind of put their final thoughts before we finish this stream.
No, just a further comment around the number of flows on an object and so on. Of course, if you're building screen flows and they're driven by a button that the user clicks on, you can have as many as you like because they're not all going to be running at once. So screen flows are a different category altogether.
All right.
Screen flows are a lot of fun. You can really make some great user interface improvements, especially around, and one that I've done a lot of work around is product selection.
Yeah.
Anybody adding products to opportunities will know what a pain in the butt it is to search and add products, because you basically just end up with a massive big list of products, and Screenflows and the data table really help you make a much better user interface there.
Yep. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're big proponents of that. And then you start getting dangerous when you start playing with like an official Salesforce, like data tables, like the automation hour presentation that you've done. So, which makes a perfect segue to kind of move this to Rakesh. Rakesh, some final thoughts before we wrap up.
Follow the best practice, follow the naming convention, and make sure that when you are, I always say this to everyone, so when you are writing a flow, make sure that you are following the naming convention, writing as much as description, because you are not writing for yourself, you are writing for some customers, some other people who's going to read it. So make your flow readable first.
Yep. I agree. Thank you, Rakesh. I appreciate you. Appreciate both of you guys. Andy, some final thoughts on your end.
I mean, the only one point I would like to emphasize one more time is it's a journey and it takes a lot of time. You need to be patient with your skills And a lot of times I would also recommend people, because folks would get easily frustrated, try to focus on your progress rather than the end result. Compare yourself to yourself a month ago, 2 months ago, rather than getting to architect level next month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a really good
Yeah.
point, Andy.
Yeah. Adam, to you.
No, that's really well said, because even developers, as they're starting out, they can get really disconcerted and upset with their lack of progress. But when you think about where you started, I look at flows I built 3 years ago. It's like, ooh, it's like I did that. It's really amazing how far you can come, and even how addicting it can be to build flows. So I hope that everyone that gets started with this recognizes that it's okay to fail. Just fail in a sandbox.
Yeah. Or a dev org.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's a very, very valid point, and I think there's becoming a massive importance as automation rules, like as declarative automation kind of merges to Flow, with Process Builder being thrown away finally. Like, I'll be there, please, on the event that we guys officially sunset that. I will throw a party for it. But and then workflows as well, kind of migrating over. So I think there's going to be a big thing for people to get on board with this journey, and it'll be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of good things out there for it. Melody, final thoughts?
Yes. So I see a lot of people building flows, and they would just be using a lot of data elements like DMO or SOQO, as long as it doesn't reach the limit. So they're just use maybe like 50 on one flow and think, okay, I only use 50, so that's good enough. But I think a really good practice is always think about how you can build your flows more efficiently. Because one flow, it probably doesn't matter. 2 flow probably doesn't matter. Once you have 10 flows, that's going to start to have an impact, a negative impact on your org. So a really good practice, like in your daily building process, always try to think about how can I remove more data elements from my flow? How can I just make sure my org doesn't reach the capacity? I think that's going to help you to improve in flow a lot efficiently.
All right. I was just responding to 1 or 2 comments in here, but yeah, appreciate it, Melody. Pete, to you.
So 2 comments. 1, what you don't know today is not what you can't do forever. Just accept that it's a learning process. The early parts are always the most painful. It'll start to come more naturally as you work on it. Number 2, never underestimate the power of the community. People ping me randomly on LinkedIn and send me like syntax errors and ask me to help figure them out. If it's something I can solve really quick, I'm always going to do that. If not, I'm going to direct them to the Trailblazer community, different tutorials, different blog posts. There are people out there that are willing to help you. This is one of the most generous communities I've ever been a part of. So you're not in it alone, and it can seem really daunting at first. There's so much about this platform to learn and absorb. Just baby steps. Keep chomping away at it. You'll get there.
My first flow was 2 elements, so just throwing it out there.
My first flow, it took me 3 days to get the hello world to work because I didn't understand. I needed the context of the record I was talking about. 2.5 weeks later, I basically had a chatter spoofer that like would listen to like 6 different objects and mention all the relevant people necessary to be involved in the process. I'm very both feet in kind of guy.
My first flow, I built a flow that did nothing because I just want to trigger like a do nothing subflow from Process Builder.
I remember those.
Yeah. Warren, last but not least.
Yeah, it's hard to go after all that. I want to echo what everybody says, especially on the learning part. So it's going to take time. We did not just wake up one day and know flows or anything on the Salesforce platform. So it definitely takes time, and it's baby steps, but you'll eventually crawl, walk, run, and you'll get there. The other thing that I'll say from the developer community, I've got to continue to represent, start to notice when your flows get a little unwieldy and when they do, when they turn into giant spaghetti monsters, probably take a step back and understand, like, are you going down the right path, or is it potentially time to use a different automation tool, i.e. code, to make things a little bit better or a little bit more efficient, a little bit more readable. That comes with its own challenges, but a lot of times, you know, a 5-6 element thing inside of flows can be like 2 lines of code. So it's important to understand all the things that are at your disposal.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. And in a spectrum, right, of flows, what flows can do being here, and maybe it's backwards. So I'll start with this, go left to right on the camera. So if flows is where it can do here, and then code is here, somewhere in the middle also there is the unofficial Salesforce components that are all Apex actions, right? So if you're not, it's kind of like being able to bring down code level work to develop to declarative level functionality. So it really can empower you to also be able to do a lot more with a lot less, you know, by leaning on code without having to go through the complexity of understanding how it works. Guys, I really appreciate all of you guys. I want to give a final shout out to Ben McCarthy as well, who was participating, SalesforceBen and Ohanaly for putting these together. Like we mentioned, the May 25th will be the next one. Once we start getting closer, we'll be reaching out again and letting everyone know so everyone can get registered. We'll try to learn as much as we can from this event. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thank you, Adam White. Thank you to the Trailhead Academy also for pitching in with the vouchers. There's a lot that we're going to follow up with for those who've submitted. We still got to do some cleanup after this. There will be a debrief after this so we can finally catch our breath and figure out what worked well. But once again,
let's not forget the participants. You know, they were the show.
Exactly yes. Right. Thank you to the participants. Absolutely right. It was fun seeing this many submissions flow in like a fire hose, literally, of all the submissions. And we got quite a lot of people that managed to get through. So yeah, can't thank everyone enough. Looking forward to the next one on May 25th, and we'll be touching base by then. But until then, thank you everyone, and we'll catch you all on the next one.